My best advance. I think you'll be happier if you reduce your expectations than if you try and satisfy them.
What advice you would give to young individuals with a passion for business and finance? What would you say is the best possible way for someone to expose themselves and expand their understanding of working in the business world, without actually currently being involved in it? And how can I maximize my potential value to a corporation in the future by what I do right now?
Well, that's a good question. And there's so many of you now who want to be rich by going into finance. And of course, that multitude is not going to all get rich. Of course, 99% will be in the bottom 99%. That's just the way it's going to work. But I look at the people in my generation who were the nerds who were patient and rational, eventually did well, who lived within their income and worked at being sensible, and when they saw an opportunity, grabbed it pretty fiercely and so forth. And I think that'll work for the new nerds of the world. And the people who get ahead because they're star salesmen or charismatic personalities, I'm not one of those, so I don't know how to do that. So if you're not a nerd, I can't help. And I think that the odds are that most people who try to do finance are not going to succeed. And there's a lot of wretched excess in it because easy money will always attract wretched excess. It's just the nature. It's like a bunch of animals feeding on a carcass in Africa. By the way, that's an image I chose on purpose. So I don't think it's so pretty, and I don't think that modern finance is so wonderful. And in my day, a lot of the finance people were more like engineers. They were so chastened by the Great Depression and all the wretched failure that they really tried to make everything super safe. And it was a very different, plodding place that the people weren't trying to get rich, they were trying to be safe. This modern world is radically different. And I'm not sure if I were starting out in your world, how well I would do. It would be a lot harder than it was to get ahead in the world the way it was when I came up. If I were you, my best advance. I think you'll be happier if you reduce your expectations than if you try and satisfy them. And by the way, I think that's generally a very good idea. It sounds silly, but it's so obvious. You know how many of us are fairly content with pretty moderate success? That is worth knowing, because that's what most of us are going to get.
My name is Sheena Cho from the Academy of Finance. What recommendations would you give us as teenagers to prepare for our future and become as successful as you?
Well, if you're interested in business, I definitely think you ought to learn all the accounting you can by the time you're in your early 20s. Accounting is the language of business. Now, that doesn't mean it's a perfect language, so you have to know the limitations of that language as well as all aspects of it. So I would advise you to learn accounting, and I would advise you to be, in terms of part-time employment or anything else, work in a number of businesses. There's nothing like seeing how business operates to build your judgment in the future about businesses. When you understand what kind of things are very competitive and what kind of things are less competitive and why that works that way, all of that adds to your knowledge. So I would do a lot of reading. If you're interested in investments, I would take the accounting courses. I do a lot of reading about investments, and I would get as much business experience. I would talk business with people that are in business to find out what they think makes their operation tick or where they have problems and why. I just think you just kind of sop it up every place that you can, and if it turns you on, you'll do well in it. I mean, I think that if there certain activities grab different people, but if business is of interest to you, my guess is you'll do well. And if you understand business, you understand investments. Investments are simply business decisions in terms of capital allocation. I wish you well on it, Charlie.
Yeah, there's also the little matter of underspending your income year after year after year,
which we have mastered.
Yes. That really works if you keep at it.
Yeah, Charlie and I both. Charlie started having children at a rapid rate, so he was a lawyer when there was not big money, and then. But I was any money you save before you get out and start having a family is probably worth any dollar is probably worth $10 later on, simply because you can save it. It's the time to save is young, and you'll never have a better time to save than really pre-formation of a family, because the expenditures come along then, whether you like them or not. So work for yourself first and put the money aside. I was lucky that way. I didn't have to pay for my own college. Probably wouldn't have gone to college if I'd had to pay for it. But I was able to save everything I made in my teens, and those dollars got magnified quite a bit. Whereas the money when I started first selling securities, I mean that the money I made then was taken up by family needs to quite an extent. So start saving early. A lot of it's habit anyway, so it's a great habit to have.
What's the secret of that?
You find your passion. You find your passion. I was very, very lucky to find it, when I was 7 or 8 years old, and fortunately, my children have found their passion. One son loves farming like nothing else. One son loves music like everything else, and all three of them love philanthropy and what they get to do. You're lucky in life when you find it, and you can't guarantee you're going to find it in your first job out. But I always tell the college students that come out, I say, take the job that you would take if you were independently wealthy. You're going to do well at it.